All right. So here we are at Mexico Monday, just waiting for us to go live in all the different streams, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever we are. And looks like we are good. So welcome to another episode of Mexico Monday. And we've got some pretty cool things happening today. So we have some special guests coming in, and they're going to talk to us about some of the processes with buying properties in Mexico. So as you know, Ed is my partner down in Mexico. And welcome in, Eder.
Hey, how are you? How is everything there in Canada? Here is snowing, right?
Oh, you know what? It's cold, man. It's minus 11, and we're going to be down to minus 21. And
Whoa, when is going to happen that? So in a couple of
Wednesday,
days?
Thursday.
Oh, okay, guys. So it's time to come to visit us, guys.
Exactly. So this is the time that we start to think about, wow, maybe we need to get out of here. With Christmas around the corner, we start planning those vacations and, looking at those trips in Mexico. And so, guys, if you're going down to Tulum and you're just going down for a vacation and you would like to Tulum, Cancun, Playa del Carmen, any of those places, don't forget about Eder, because we can also connect you with him and he can take you on a little tour if you like as well.
For sure. We have so many good projects to show you guys, ready to deliver, so as well some pre-construction. So feel free to ask us at tour, please.
Yeah, Eder can show you the pre-construction pricing stuff that's being during construction. There's properties that are available right now that he can show you, and ranging in price from 100,000 to $1 million. So let us know when you're going down, and we can arrange something for you. Now, Eder, you've arranged for a couple of guests today.
Why don't you tell us who they are? Thank you. Okay, we invite Marco Flores and Luis Alcala because of what? We have some concerned clients that sometimes they ask us if they can be scammed here or something like that. And I was thinking, honestly speaking, is getting popular, that thing is scamming. Even if you guys Google it, you can find some things there, of course. So that's why it's good, guys, to have behind, or to have a group of lawyers to follow us in all the transaction. That's why I invite Marco and Luis Alcala. Can you invite them there?
Exactly. Yeah. So, hey, Luis. Now, we were just having a little bit of challenge with audio. Marco, how you doing there? Can you hear us? Oh, yeah, you can hear us, but we can't hear you yet. So that's okay.
Okay, so while we wait, Marco, let me introduce Luis Alcala. Actually, he's in Mexico City. He's a financial lawyer at Invest and Legal Consulting, Puerto Vallarta. Thank you, guys, for giving us the opportunity to speak today. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
Now, one of the things that popped in my head right away is, you're in Mexico City, Marco's in Puerto Vallarta. Are there limitations to where you can work?
Well, no, in Mexico we have no limitations. It's different than the United States, for example. We don't have a local bars, so we can act as a lawyer in any part of the country. We are specialized in real estate transactions in La Riviera Maya, Puerto Vallarta, and some places like Ajijic or San Miguel de Allende. Our work, first of all, it's focused in follow all the process because it's a little bit complicated. Most of all, in the beach, it's forbidden in some way for the expats to buy some property. So what we work there, it's a fideicomiso or trust, and then we have a Mexican trust where the property lives, and the first beneficiary, it's the expat. So legally, it's completely protected. I shouldn't say that it's the most difficult part. It's the important part to take care of the clients. It's all the process, starting with the purchase agreement, working with a third-part administrator as an escrow. Here we work with very professional firms of escrow that acts as the name says, as a third administrator in order to do all the steps and avoid any risk as any financial or real estate transaction in the world. So Mexico, yeah, could be, how can I say, as any business in life, you have to be careful. You have to try to work with the best, or the people who has recommendation. Marco and I, we had been working in all this area for more than 8 years. So we have a lot of experience. It's a matter of do the steps step by step correctly, as the by the book, correct? So that's why the lawyer, it's so important in this process, because it's a lot of paperwork. Notario, the notario in Mexico is different than the notario in the United States and Canada. So
Now,
it's a
and
lot of
notario is a notary.
A notary,
a
yes.
notary.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want, I can explain you the whole process how it works here in Mexico. No, the closing legal support.
Yeah, perfect. Actually,
Okay.
before we go there, Marco, can you guys give us a little history of yourself? Because something Louise had mentioned that really resonated well with me was that he came from a community, like physically lived in a community where there were a lot of retirees and expats. So he's very used to being able to help those of us in other countries come in. So maybe you guys can tell us both your history, a little bit about yourself before we get into the process.
Correct. Yeah. You start, Luis, Javier.
Okay, I will start. It's I had been working all my life for banks and financial services companies. So when I used to be the legal counsel in these kind of companies, I was in charge of all the risks with the risk area in order to do the the operations and the credits correctly. So that that give us a lot of experience in all the process, looking from the financial services company that it has to be very careful, because it's the one who gives the money, right? So that's why I started to work with all these escrows, trust, or what we said here, fideicomisos, that it's the correct legal structure for the expats. With the time, I started my firm, and then I became partner with Marco. I lived in Ajijic, Chapala, for more than 3 years, and yeah, it's an expat retired community like San Miguel de Allende, and in certain way it's different than Puerto Vallarta and La Riviera Maya. There's also a big community of expats, but absolutely it's younger people, and also it's a very tourist and vacational. So the dynamic it's faster. Living in an expat community of retired that they live 100% time here, or at least 50%, like the Canadians. We know them there as the snowbirds, right? In this time of the year, they came to the south for a little warmer. So we know the level of services and the quality of services that North American citizens are looking for, right? So that's why we have a complete process to do. We started the firm like 5 years ago with Marco. He's the specialist in the escrows, fideicomisos, and all the closing. I'm a specialist in transactions, receive money from other countries, uh, work with NFTs, crypto. We have done some operations in La Ribera Maya with cryptocurrency. So we mix all this experience, and we work with some notarios that we know for a long time ago. It's a very important part, and I will do this parenthesis. This market, it's completely full. So if you don't have the experience, if you go as a regular person to the notario, he won't work for you. Actually, for example, Marco, when he start an operation with the notario, he do all the paperwork and just present it, And it's very important to know, because there's a lot of people trying to do business like in Tulum, but they don't really know the market. And it's a very complex market. That's why all these experiences, professional, personal, and now in this firm with Marco, it's so important. And I can tell you, last Friday, I'm very proud of my partner, because last Friday he closed three sales in one day. So yeah, we have some experience in this. So
Beautiful.
Marco,
Congrats,
please.
Marco. So
Thank
tell
you.
us tell us how you entered law and where you're coming from.
Well, actually, I'm from Mexico City. I live here in Rivera Maya since 8 years ago. And well, most of my experience is in notary law, real estate law, as well. I do escrow services. I do financing. So, well, I have a master degree in corporate law. I have another master degree in tax law. And I started here to work in Secure Title Latin America in Rivera Maya. And then I start my own law firm, that now is investment and legal consulting. So basically, what we do, I'm a real estate agent, and basically on a day-to-day basis, what we do is guide buyers and sellers to close their real estate transactions from the beginning to the end, meaning until we deliver the title in their hands. I don't know if you're listening to me well, because I heard my voice twice.
Yeah, no, we can hear you fine, and we're not hearing you twice, so we're good here on this end. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about the process, because buying a property in Mexico is very different than what we're doing in Canada and US. And my understanding is there were some laws that were passed that said those of us from Canada and US can't own property within a certain distance of the water, of the ocean. And so
correct. According to the Article 27 of the Mexican Constitution, you cannot acquire land directly. You have to do it through a trust. But actually, this trust is set up with a Mexican bank institution. That basically the trust is the same as in other countries where the bank is the one that holds the property in trust and designate you as the beneficiary of the property. And as well, it works as a will, because you can designate as well who's going to be your substitute beneficiary in case you pass away. So you don't have to create as well a will. So it is under the fideicomiso.
And so with the fideicomiso,
that is
is there
bank
a time limit on them?
Say again, sorry?
Is there a time limit on these trusts?
These trusts are for a term of 50 years and are renewable the same period of time. So basically, with our service consists in, we verify that the property is free and clear of any liens or encumbrances, that the property, that the seller is the rightful owner of the property, that there is not any debt of water, the property taxes, homeowners association fees, among others. And once we verify that the property is in legal conditions, then the buyer will fully commit on purchasing through the execution of a promissory agreement that we will be drafting in the Spanish and English version. So basically, the promissory agreement in Mexico, it will contain the same information containing the offer to purchase agreed by both parties. So what we include in the promissory agreement is as well the recitals, the clauses, the penalties, the delivery date, if it includes inventory or not, if it's furnished. So once the buyer verify that the buyer and seller verify that the promissory agreement it's okay, and they agree with their terms and conditions, then they fully commit in the creation of a bank trust. That is, it's important to say that in Mexico, the purchase agreement needs to mature into a final document, which is the deed. This document is issued and granted by the notary public, and it's worth mentioning that in Mexico, the notary publics play a different role from the one in other countries, where they are only limited to witnesses the execution of a document. In Mexico, the notary is the government official, grants public faith, and formalize 100% of legal acts when it comes to a real estate transaction. No, as well, part of the notaries of the part of the duties of the notary is to calculate, collect, and pay on behalf of buyers and sellers the taxes that are due at the closing. No, so as I was saying, after the execution of the purchase agreement, we will initiate the final step to formalize the transaction through the execution of the deed. Such deed will contain the trust agreement through which you, as a foreigner, will acquire the property. No, basically the real estate trust agreement is the same as in other countries. No, as I told you, is they hold the property in trust and designate you as the beneficiary of the property. No. And at the moment you want to sell your property, if you want to sell your property to another foreign person, you just have to instruct the trustee bank to do an assignment of trustee rights. Or if you are selling to a Mexican person, it's just the extinguish of the trust and the transfer of ownership to the other person.
Okay.
So, well, I don't know if you have any questions in regards to the process or the closing costs, the escrow.
Yeah, something that you did touch on that's unique that we wouldn't have experienced here in Canada or the US is you guys write a contract in 2 different languages.
Correct.
Now, obviously, you can't get 2 contracts binding. So how does that work?
No. Well, the legal version of the contract is normally the Spanish version, but by law, there is no any impediment that you can do it or in Spanish or English version. It's valid anyway. No?
Oh, you could do it in English.
Correct.
But it's just very abnormal. And so when you do both in English and a Spanish, is the English more as a translation of the
There
Spanish?
are some documents that we will need translated. No, for example, if you want to buy a property through a LLC, a limited liability company, we will need all this documentation, the articles of the corporation, certificate of good standing, all the information of the corporation. We will need it duly translated by a certified translator, and as well notarized and apostilled, not to have effect here in Mexico. So, well, if we talk about the promissory agreement, we can do it in Spanish or in English version, but we normally do both. No, we put the Spanish and English version in the same contract for the better understanding of it.
Okay, perfect. And so how does that escrow process work in Mexico? So because we were speaking to somebody one time and they had said, no, it's really easy. You just give the seller the money in their bank and then we can transfer title. But to me, that becomes scary because what's preventing them from taking the money and disappearing?
No, well, basically the escrow is a fund of administration. No? As you know, we have to create an escrow account with an escrow agent. So at the moment you sign your promissory agreement, we will execute at the same time the escrow agreement. No, and actually this escrow agreement, we will add it to the promissory agreement as a form of payment. No, because the escrow protect you for any risk. No, when you execute a real estate transaction. No, because normally you have a 10% deposit. If you pay the 10% deposit directly to the seller, you don't have control of your funds. No, and if you send this money directly to the escrow account, they will need a condition to do the disbursement of the funds to the account of the seller. No, and as well, you as brokers, you have more protection of your commission because at the moment we execute the title deed, we disburse the funds of the seller. We pay as well closing costs, and we pay as well the agent commissions. No, we deduct it from the seller payment, as well as the capital gain tax. This is important thing, the capital gains tax, because in Mexico, the seller needs to pay the capital gains tax. That is the 35% of the gain. For example, if you acquire in 2021 a property in 100 pesos, and you're selling now the property in 200 pesos, there is a gain of 100 pesos. This 100 pesos, we have to pay the 35% of the gain, of the 100 pesos that is part of the gain.
Now,
So the acquisition tax in Mexico, it's paid by the purchasers, no? And this acquisition tax is of 3% normally here in Rivera Maya, no? It depends on the municipality. In Tulum it's 3%, Playa del Carmen is 3%, Cancun is 3.3%. 3.3%. Yeah. So it depends because it's 3% of the purchase price. It's not of the gain. No, it's 3% of the purchase price directly.
Now, you speak about capital gains. Does that differ if you're foreigner or Mexican, or is it the same no matter what?
It changed 5%. For Mexicans are 30%, for foreigners and for Mexican corporation it's 35%.
Okay.
Now, if the LLC, the Mexican corporation, owns the property basically through a trust, and if we sold the shares of the company rather than share we sell the company rather than sell the property, do we still have to pay capital gains on that? Or because the owner hasn't changed, the owner is still the company, there's no capital gains charge?
Exactly. If you're just selling the shares, you don't have to pay capital gain taxes.
But that capital gains will carry through with the corporation.
Because it's inside of the corporation. No, at the moment you change the owner of the corporation. For example, the corporation sell it to a physical person. You have to pay for because it's the transfer of dominion, of the ownership.
Okay.
Now let me tell you a detail. A lot of expats try to become a temporal or permanent resident, because if you have this condition, you are exempted in your first property for the capital gains. So if you have two properties and you have residencia permanente or temporal, it doesn't matter the capital gains. You will be exempted just in one property. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And is there a limit to the dollar on that? Does it matter if it's a $500,000 property or $1 million property or a $5 million property?
Actually, to exempt the capital gains tax, for foreigners or for Mexican, you have to get your tax ID. Okay. First, you have to apply for a temporary or permanent residency card, and then you can apply for a tax ID. Once you get the tax ID, you have to get the electricity bill on your name, and you have to get the invoice of the electricity bill with your tax ID, and with that information, you are able to exempt the capital gain tax. It's the requirements by law that they need. You can have an INE, that is like identification card here in Mexico. It's to vote. And as well, if you have a bank statement with the address of the property and the invoice of the electricity.
And so are you guys able to help through every step of the process, even if somebody wants to become a permanent resident, basically, and having the ability to work and the tax IDs and all of that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, I was speaking with a realtor from Huatuco about a year ago, and he was the one that had said, in Huatuco, basically, it's the Wild West. They really don't have the structure the way that you're speaking of it. And because you guys work anywhere in Mexico, to me, guys, if you're watching this video and you're saying, how can I make sure that I protect myself? It probably is really worth reaching out to Marco and Luis and having that chat to be able to see, if they can help you in the different communities, right? We spent a lot of time talking about Tulum, but no matter where you're thinking about going in Mexico, it's probably worth adding that layer of security. Now, what does this layer of security cost us? What's the cost in the whole process here, Marco?
Well, the cost of the whole process, it varies, depends the purchase price. No, but the higher the purchase price it is, the lower the percentage you pay, and vice versa. But normally, it's around the 6 to 7.5% of the purchase price, because only the 3% is for the payment of the acquisition tax. The rest is for the payment of notary fees, and as well, if you will include for the payment the escrow services that it has a cost of 550 US. The closing coordination as well, no? So it includes, it's around the 7.5%, depends of the purchase.
So is it safe to say that if somebody budgeted 8%?
But that considerates the property tax, right, Marco?
The property tax, it has to be paid by the seller, and it has to be updated at the moment we want to formalize the transaction. No? All the payments of taxes, the ride, and the water, electricity have to be updated in order to transfer the ownership to the purchaser. No, and free and clear of any liens or encumbrances like that.
But you're saying that 7.5% covers everything, right? That would be all
property. The property. If you property tax, we will need to get a certificate of no debt of property tax in order to formalize the transaction.
Okay. And so if I was coming from Canada and I was going to buy a property for $500,000 US,
yeah,
then it would be safe for me to say, okay, if I budgeted in expenses 8%, it wouldn't go over that. That would be everything that would be all in. And I knew that I would only need $500,000 for the property and $40,000 for all the expenses at worst. And
correct.
Everything would be taken care of.
Correct. Yeah, because, well, if you want to set up a bank trust, are around 7.5% because we have to pay as well for the permit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. No, because as you know, according to the Article 27 of the Mexican Constitution, you cannot acquire land directly. So we have to request a permit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This permit has to be transferred in the title deed at the moment you acquire the property. So we need to pay to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs around, it's like $800 US just to request the permit, and as well the bank charge the acceptance of the creation of the bank trust. They charge as well an annuity in advance because you are paying $500 US per year for the administration of the property or the administration of the trust, and as well of the closing costs.
Okay, perfect. We ended up losing Luis there for a second, so when he comes back in, I'll let him back in. Now, what are the regular costs then that we have to pay? Because in Canada and US, we pay annual property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that very typical throughout the Mexican, all of Mexico as well?
Is the same the property tax? It has to be paid yearly.
Okay, and then we also have, you mentioned $500 to take care of the fideicomiso.
$500 to take care of. No, 550 is for the escrow account. For the fideicomiso, around 1,925 US dollars.
Every year?
Yeah, no, for the acceptance of the trust, for the permit, and one annuity in advance.
And
so what's the yearly fee?
Mm-hmm.
That is just for the bank.
But how much is it approximately? Annual fee of the fideicomiso?
500.
500 too. Okay.
The annuity depends of the bank, no, but are normally like 522, 500, 450, are around. Depends on the Mexican bank.
Perfect. And how long does this process take? So if we did find if I'm in Cancun at Christmas and I fall in love with a property,
mm-hmm.
How long would it take to go through the process to be able to become the owner?
To get the permit, it takes around 12 days. No? Once we get the permit, we have to transfer it in the title deed. So we are talking about 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 1 month to sign the title deed.
Okay, perfect.
And once you sign the title deed, we have to do the registration before the register of the property.
And do we have to be present in Mexico to do all the signing?
No, we can send you a power of attorney and you can sign, well, print the power of attorney, sign, get it notarized, and apostille in the notary of the state. At the Secretary of the State. No, if you're in the United States, it's the Secretary of the State. Or if not, you can do it in the consulate in Canada, and the process is different because it's an authentication and legalization of the document.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So it could be done in a consulate. Okay.
Yeah. So you don't have to be physical here. Well, we can act on your behalf.
No, excellent. And so the process is a little different than what we're used to, but I like the idea of incorporating the lawyers in the process, because everybody else that I spoke to is just, no, you know what, the notaries will take care of it. And to me, that becomes a little concerning, because to write a check for $500,000 for a property and not knowing that the process is protected.
Yeah,
totally correct.
It's very important to have an escrow account. Well, I recommend always to my clients and the broker agencies where, well, I work with a lot of agencies, no? And I recommend always to use the escrow account, because they are protecting as well their commissions, no? And we do the deduction before the execution of the title deed.
Perfect. And so does the seller have a lawyer as well? Are there typically two lawyers involved in the process?
Sometimes, right, Marco?
Yeah, sometimes they hire as well a lawyer, but the responsibility of the seller is just to pay the capital gains tax, no, and to get the certificate. This certificate is certificate of no liens over the property, certificate of no debt of property tax, a certificate of no debt of homeowners associations. No, we have to get all these certificates from the seller's part, no, and as well we have to deduct the payment of the broker commission. But who has the right to choose the notary is the purchaser. And the purchaser needs to pay the closing cost to the notary.
Okay, excellent. Eder, do you have any other questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, just to adding that, it's good to have a team of lawyers as Marco has, because at the end, I like how he follow up the clients, sending emails. We are in this step, so we are passing through this. So, and as well, the clients feel comfy about working with lawyers. So it's better to have something next to the clients as well.
Yeah, that confidence in the process is so important.
Totally. Do you want any question, Jason, to add?
No, anything else that we didn't talk about? No, actually, Marco, we were talking to Luis before the show began, and I found out that you guys are also, what do they call it? Fintech. So basically specialists in financial and technology together. So that, and then we're dealing with crypto and NFTs, and I'd love to have big chats about NFTs. Also, mortgages. He suggested that you guys are working closely with banks and your brokers to be able to provide mortgages. So Eder and I would love to have you guys on again to talk specifically about mortgages, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. And what we'll do is we're going to drop in the comments how to be able to reach out to Marco and Luis. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. As you guys know, make comments below or reach out to us directly. And we're always here to help as well.
Thank you, Marco, for giving us the time to chat with us, and see you soon, please.
Yeah, and Marco, if you can hang out after I stop, just so we can give the proper goodbyes. But everybody, thanks for watching the show this week. And yeah, Mexico Monday, next Monday, same time, 5 o'clock, and we will see you then.
Perfect.